Whenever I'm here in the Dishman Hills, I always look around at these rocks and these cliffs, and it's all exposed and it's amazing. I ask myself, I wonder how it got like this. And you know, I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna explore that and see if I can figure it out. So while I was out there, I made some notes to myself about what I was seeing. And I noted when I was in the deep ravine again, the trail went through here and it had tall cliffs about 75 feet on either side of me. And when I was there, I noted that some of the area that I walked through reminded me of of where I'd been to the gold country in California, a place called Columbia, where they had these big water cannons that had washed all the soil away and exposed the rocks, and it reminded me of that. And then when I was down inside the deep ravine, what it reminded me of was when you see desert canyons, you know, some of the great canyons, like the Grand Canyon's got a big river running through it that maybe carve that out, and other places that are drier, they have flash floods and things that carve out to make canyons similar to that. And so I was wondering, is water a factor in what was happening out at out in the Dishman Hills? Is that what the major thing is? And what kind of water? Was it a river running through there? Was it possibly a flash flood event? Was it mining? I don't think it was probably mining, because I don't think they had that in this area. And so those are my guesses, and I decided to look it up. And you go to the library and get books on these things, but in this case, I went and I looked online, and I got on my computer and I did a search for the geology of Spokane, and I learned about a thing called the Ice Age floods. And back in the last Ice Age, we're talking in a range of 15,000 to 13,000 years ago, so a pretty long time ago, right? That a big ice sheet blocked the Clark Fork River all the way over at the border of Montana and Idaho. And from there it backed up and it created this huge, huge lake that was called the Missoula Lake. And the Missoula Lake held an amazing amount of water. And what happened is, periodically during the Ice Age, things would warm up enough, or other factors. There's a whole lot of factors in this. But what would happen is that ice dam that was holding back all that water would break and release all that water all at once. And it came racing down at speeds of 60 or more miles an hour, if you can imagine that. Hundreds and hundreds of feet tall, too. Just a huge wall of water. And that slammed into the Dishman Hills. It went all the way out to the Pacific Ocean and created all kinds of geology in this area. So there's so much more that I can't really tell you on this brief video, but you can look it up, go online, go to the library. It's fascinating. So I'm going to go outside. I'm going to try to recreate that in my backyard using some rocks and some dirt and some water, and I'm going to see if I can recreate my own Ice Age flood. All right, so I'm making my model Dishman Hills here, and I'm placing some rocks on the ground, and I'm arranging them here, because a lot of rock was underground before the Great Ice Age flood. We know that for sure, and some of it might have been sticking up a little bit, some of the other rocks sticking up. So I'm going to cover them up with some soil that I have here. Lots of good soil there. And you know, there were trees and things that were growing there, so you're going to have a lot of decaying material from the trees that have lived and died in that area for a long time. Some more pine trees over here. All right, so there's my model. What this box represents is it represents the sides of the mountains coming down from up by, say, Coeur d'Alene. And this would sort of be Spokane Valley, if you will, coming through here down to where the Dishman Hills are. And this bucket, I'm going to fill this with water. That's going to represent when that dam bursts, because when a dam bursts, the water comes out fast and furious. It's going to race down my ramp, and it's going to slam into the Dishman Hills here. And we're going to see how it changes from its present to whatever the effect is that the water has on it. Water hit it very hard. It knocked all these trees off the top. Most of the soil got washed away, and I've got some little cracks through here. I got an area here that looks sort of like the deep ravine does. It's cut pretty deep through here, and some other places where rocks have been moved and the soil's been scraped off. There's a lot of bare rock here that wasn't there before, and a little bit of rock and a little bit of soil that's still on my experiment here. If we look here, we can see how the soil runs away and down. Look at those trees that it carried with it. There's a lot going on there. And on our scale, this would have been miles and miles and miles away from what is now a very different, very changed Dishman Hills. And so again, well, not a perfect model. It gives us an idea of the awesome power of water and what that did to the Dishman Hills to expose all that rock that you see there today. So we've done our experiment, and I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot more about the Dishman Hills and how that happened, and I've got opportunities now to go on my computer or go to the library and really look this stuff up, because there's a really big story about how the geology in this area was formed. And we just scratched the surface a little bit today, really just to show how those rocks got exposed in the Dishman Hills in the first place. Didn't talk about how those rocks were formed underground, and didn't talk about what's happened since and what's happened to other parts of the state due to that Ice Age flood and some other things that happened. So I encourage you, get out your journal, write down the things you notice, you wonder, what it reminds you of, and if it sparks your interest, do like I did. Get online, go to the library, see what more you can find, and sometimes you might even be able to do like I did here, put together your own experiment and see what it looks like on a scale model size. Anyhow, thanks for joining me on today's Nature Detective, and we hope to see you out there in the Dishman Hills, or just outside your door. There's a lot of nature everywhere.